Welcome to episode 273 of the podcast, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Thank you for joining me for another episode of this podcast. And if you are tuning in for your first time, I am so grateful that you are here on Nora Speaks. We talk about topics and issues that are relevant specifically to the Black community and with the intended goal to share insights and ideas that can help us improve our condition and improve our outcomes. And in this episode 273, I titled it Prom-rageous. I titled it Prom-rageous because it is prom season, right? We are in the month of May, the month that our young people are attending prom, preparing for graduation or preparing for promotion to the next grade in school. Some preparing for for college graduation. But as we look at what's happening and the current trends with the prom, the modern prom, and specifically, I'm talking about what we see in the urban communities or amongst people who are experiencing poverty or deprivation. When we see our young people being sent off for prom, maybe I am just old fashioned. Maybe I'm just not with the times. But what I'm seeing with this trend where our children are asking for designer luxury brands, jewelry, shoes, as well as luxury cars, exclusive cars, sometimes helicopters. I have some concerns and I have some thoughts that I would like to share. And I I I, I understand that we want to give our children what it is that they're asking for. We don't want our children to be the ones that are the oddball or the one that's left out and not participating in the modern trends, so that they can say that their shoes cost $800, their dress, has cost $5,000 and it is custom made. And, they are renting cars that their parents have never even driven. There are some concerns that I think we have to confront and talk about as it relates to these choices that we're making and perhaps the value that we're putting into the prom and what we are allowing our children to engage in and really enabling them because often it's coming from our pockets. Y- When you go on social media and you look at, the folks have smoke machines at their homes. They have, designers that are designing Cinderella or fairy tale themes in their homes. These young people are having catered themed send-offs before they go to the prom, the dance, the party. And so families are really coming out of their pockets deep to provide, this for our children. And I'm talking specifically I'm not talking about folks who are affluent. I'm talking about those within our community that, live in impoverished communities, folks who are low income families. And, far be it for me to tell another adult, how to spend their money. But I think that this is worth a conversation. This conversation really isn't about shaming our people, and this podcast isn't necessarily about shaming our people, but I think that we should have a conversation about it. And, for a family to be renting an apartment, renting a home, whether they are or are not getting, government assistance and creating these exorbitant prom send-offs. It's as I said, I think that we have to question our values and question what we're enabling families to do or enabling our children rather to engage in. It's up to us as responsible adults to help shape and mold the character and the ideas of our young people. And our young people, they want to do a lot of things that we don't permit them to do because the harm, the danger, the safety issues, the appropriateness, the affordability. And so there are many things that our children want to experience that, we discern whether or not, it's appropriate. And I don't think that the prom should be any different. And I don't think that parents should give in because things are trending. And, I think about an interview that I heard on NPR, and this was several years ago, so I don't remember the researcher who was sharing information, but this is what she said, as it relates to mothers who are low income earners and mothers who are considered middle class. And so there was a question about the nutritional value of the foods that these mothers were purchasing and providing to their children. And essentially, both mothers that are defined or described fitting the low income category and mothers who would fit the middle income category. Both sets of mothers did buy junk food for their children. However, the middle income mothers also purchased healthy foods. And upon having discussions with the mothers who were low income, the mothers explained that because they have to tell their children no so often to things that they want, the things that they want to do, because finances are a barrier, because these mothers have to say no so much. What's the big deal about 25-cent bag of chips? What is the big deal about, a red soda? And so those opportunities where the mothers could say yes to their children, they took it. Although both sets of mothers, both groups did want their children to be healthy and to have healthy diets and lifestyles. However, because the impoverished or low income mothers felt as if or were experienced a reality where they were not able to acquiesce to what their children were asking, demanding, they said, "Well, I will say yes when I can." And if it's a 25-cent chips, soda, cookies, candies, the things that are accessible in the community, the corner stores, then they said yes to that. And I get that because it's not that the mothers were interested or were neglectful, I'll say, in providing nutritional foods. What they were doing was trying to show an act of love. And so I understand that sometimes when we are experiencing some sort of suffering, right? In this case, financial, poverty, deprivation, sometimes we want to experience some sort of relief or solace or celebration in the deprivation. And so we will engage in these sorts of prom send offs. I mean, renting halls, decorating the halls, and catering these affairs before the dance that the children are going to attend that has food. So we'll say yes because we want our child to feel special and to have this special moment. And sometimes that moment isn't just about the child, but it's about us and the pride that we experience by giving our children this moment. It's not just their moment, it also becomes our moment. And so while we may criticize or condemn families for being wasteful, what we think is wasteful by engaging in this trend, we can understand people saying, well, we don't have much. We may never have much. So I'll do this. And I also think about a book I read by Sister Shahrazad Ali. I can't recall the name of the book, but in one of her books, she talked about how we talking about the Black community and specifically our people who experience poverty, low income, what may be defined as ghettos or urban environments. We treat the prom like others would treat the wedding. We treat the baby shower and we create elaborate baby showers, extravagant baby showers, but we don't encourage the young people who are having the baby to get married. We act as if sometimes that moment, that prom, that baby shower is the thing, is like the big culminating event of our lives. And what about the wedding? Sometimes we'll say things like, that 18, 19-year-old couple that's having the baby are too young to get married. But we will do so much to throw an elaborate baby shower with all of the fixins and the decor and the balloons and the party favors and the step and repeats. We do this and we invest in a moment, but we don't often invest in a lifetime. And so that is what I want us to think about as we are in the midst of prom season. We are sending our children off and having these elaborate moments to consider investing in the lifetime, giving our children a wonderful moment, but also moderating that moment and not overextending ourselves so that after that moment passes, we are now scrambling, trying to catch up and often not able to, sort of like we do around Christmas time when we spend in December. And then in January, February, and March, we are dealing with the impacts of our overextending, whether it's credit or money or missing bills so that I can make sure I get something under the Christmas tree. And so it's not that we shouldn't value giving our children a special moment, but we should want to give our children or enable them or support them to have, a special future and being progressive and thinking about beyond just that 3 or 4 hour dance party that they're going to. And then I also sometimes think about what or in what way are we misleading our children about what they are entitled to at such a young age when we are renting these expensive luxury items, whether it's the car, whether it's the jewelry, whether it's the helicopter taking them to the football field to drop them off. What sort of expectations or foundation are we establishing for children who have not yet graduated from high school, may not have applied themselves in school, and I think about sometimes these same parents that are doing this may not themselves have been engaged with the school, attended parent teacher conferences. Do we know how our children are performing in the schools? Do we know the school administrators and the teachers that our children have? Do we know what classes and subjects our young people have? I mean, I think that we should be fully involved, not just for the sports that many of us like to come out and we support the sports, do we support the academia that is the ultimate objective of school, right? And so just helping us reset our values and guiding our children into valuing the things that matter. And sometimes helping them understand that saying no to them is as beneficial as it is to say yes at the right time. And to do this for 15, 16, 17-year olds, it's not that, you know, our children don't deserve the world and the best, right? But the world and the best isn't just in a moment, in one night celebration, right? It's all of the other things that we do to prepare our young people for a progressive and successful future. It's what we do by encouraging them to engage academically and getting them the appropriate help when they need it, helping them be responsible, getting to school on time. If they're in sports, getting to practices on time, following through and engaging in their community in a socially responsible way. So, it's a 360-degree job in raising these young people. And aside from giving them a moment of celebration when we possibly are experiencing or have experienced a lifetime of deprivation, sometimes thinking about how we can redirect, because I believe this is coming from love, but redirecting that love in a way that is meaningful and will set our children up for a beautiful future. So these are just my 2 cents on the subject. I love to see our young people having a good time and knowing that they're special and having the family come and celebrate them at the send off. I just believe that we have to do it in a responsible way, fiscally responsible way, of course, but really responsible way to you know, help them understand that whatever it is that they want and desire, one has to be earned, worked for, and that they should deserve it. And so I also don't want us to be short-sighted that, the thousands of dollars, the hours of investment that we spend in a prom, that we think about, the other celebratory moments that our children will have. We want them, if they're going to trade school, to graduate and to celebrate them once they get their degree or their certifications, or you know, whether they, are starting their career and they're getting advancements and promotions, and having marriages and starting families, and just, you know, I think that, we can moderate how we celebrate and make sure our children know that they still have something to look forward to, that this moment at 17 and 18 years old is not the crowning glory. This is not the ultimate achievement. We expect much more to celebrate. So we're going to hold on to our coins. We're not going to spend it all, because we still have to pay for your college. We still have to, help you get your first car, or your first apartment, you buy your first home. Like, you have other moments that we're going to celebrate. This is not it. So, I'm interested in what you think about it. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you are listening to Nora Speaks on a podcast streaming app, I want you to know that Nora Speaks is also now on YouTube, and you can go to Nora Speaks and you can subscribe. I encourage you to do so. If you enjoy this episode, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure you share it with family and friends if this show has value to you, and I pray that it does. I want to thank you so much for joining me in this episode of the podcast. Until next time. Stay in peace.
We were brought here as a piece of property. And to keep that piece of property, it is to not allow the property to know the value of the property. What I mean by that, if you had known the history of yourself, you would not have been made a slave. And you won't be a slave now if you have a knowledge of yourself. It's hard to enslave a person that have equal knowledge with you. You just can't do it. And so this knowledge of yourself is the thing that will free you from what you have been suffering from.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Nora Speaks. Look out for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, you can visit my website, noraspeaks.com. Or if you have a listener question, you can email me at nora@noraspeaks.com. You can also follow Nora Speaks on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Nora Speaks. I will be sure to include links in the show notes. If Nora Speaks has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.